So hello and welcome. My name is Morgan. I'm the business and nonprofit librarian with Greensboro Public Library. And with the weather turning warmer and the days getting longer, our thoughts have turned to the great outdoors and all the promise that lies in our gardens. So we at the library thought this would be a great opportunity to highlight Greensboro's small businesses and nonprofits that celebrate gardens and getting out into our yards. And today I am so excited to be joined by Ellen Ashley, owner of Learn to Garden. Ellen, welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Morgan. I'm so happy to be here. What a great time of year to talk about gardening.
Yes, I'm pumped.
Yes.
So first and foremost, Ellen, can you please just tell us all about your business?
Okay. Well, my company name is Garden Happy, but really people know me by my website because I have a blog that I've been writing for about 9 years now. And the website is www.learntogarden.net. And actually, anybody wants to go there, you can learn a lot because I have a lot of pictures and information there that is very specific to our local area, because most magazines and things you get, they're giving you planting times for different areas of the country and everything. And so what I do is I help people learn to be successful gardeners. And I have historically, and I started this business 9 years ago. So I had a series of classes. And of course, this 2020 interrupted that a bit because we couldn't gather as groups. But I teach people to garden. And more than that, I want them to be totally inspired by the magic and the joy of nature. And so I teach hands-on gardening. And by that, I mean, we go in the garden and learn, because many places that you're trying to get information, it's online or it's in a classroom with a PowerPoint presentation. And I just have always believed that I learned better from my mentors when I worked with them in the garden, and from my parents and grandparents. And it just feels different when you're touching the earth and you're seeing the bees and you can identify a good bug and a bad bug. And so that's what I wanted to teach. That's the way I wanted to teach, so that people would be empowered and inspired, and they would leave feeling confident that they could create their own garden paradise.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. And I'm a very tactile learner. So yes, yeah. I love it. So you've spoken a little bit about this, but I'm hoping we can dig in, no pun intended, but dig in a little bit more. So what really inspired you to go into business 9 years ago?
Well, because I had a big corporate career for many years, and I don't know, more than 25 years now, I needed to I got into gardening as an escape, because my parents had gardened and I just hadn't had time for that. Most people, when they get out of school and they're trying to figure out how to get to their first job and pay for their first car, and then they get married and then they have kids, and then life gets crazy busy and nobody's got time for gardening until you're kind of winding down that career a little bit, it seems like. And then we are looking for the escape to bring the joy back into our life again. And we can't wait to go hiking and just to get out into nature, because it's a very strong call for most of us to be out. And so, and that's how it was for me. And so then I started looking for places to learn more about gardening, to be, to grow the best tomatoes, to grow some cut flowers and stuff. And so, success bred success. And when I finally did retire, and I retired very early, I got into the Master Gardener program, and I went to every gardening seminar I could go to, and I volunteered at our public gardens, and I figured out who had the most beautiful personal garden, and I went and hung out with them and helped in their gardens. And so it was always like through osmosis, you kind of figured out how to learn. But there was no program. I mean, there was the Master Gardener program, but all the classes at that time, at least, were taught indoors. And you could go through the program for years and never touch soil. You never actually were required to grow anything. And I'm not, and it is a good program because there's a lot of information, but you know, I had a big ego and I just thought I could do it better.
Awesome.
And I was so, I mean, I'm passionate about it. And it was just so clearly a need. It was just so clearly and still is a giant need for that. Because, I mean, look at Greensboro. It's the whole area is ripe with public gardens. I mean, it's not just Greensboro, it's Guilford County, it's Kernersville and Forsyth County, and there are fabulous gardens everywhere. And so there's lots of opportunity, lots of desire for people that want to get out. So my goal, it was never a monetary goal, honestly, to get into business. I just saw the need and I had the passion for it. And now I think really my goal is to foster a community of garden enthusiasts.
That's so
bring joy, because gardeners, you have to be a total optimist to be a gardener. You have to, because, to hold a tiny seed the size of a pinhead and believe that that's going to turn into this giant, magnificent head of lettuce or kale or something like that. You have to believe in something, So you're an optimist, first of all. And then gardeners are just the most generous people I know. Who wants, people give away their zucchini, they cut flowers of bouquets and bring them to friends, they share their plants with other people. They share their knowledge. They will always tell you about their favorite gardening tool, and they're always checking the weather, but they are generous people. And they are creative because they are all about creating beautiful spaces. Maybe when they're first learning, they're just creating a beautiful tomato plant or growing a beautiful camellia, which are blooming now, but that they create beautiful gardens and then they invite their friends to come see them. So if you're lucky, you'll be invited to garden parties and stuff, And then also gardeners volunteer their time. That's how we learn a lot is through volunteering at like Greensboro Beautiful has a lot of volunteers and they help maintain a lot of the public gardens. And so there's great opportunities to volunteer at the Greensboro Arboretum, at the Moses Cone Healing Garden. If you don't know about that, It's an awesome place. And they always need volunteers. And at the Paul Senior Botanical Garden in Kernersville, they always have volunteers, and also at Tanger Bicentennial Garden. So those are wonderful places that gardeners volunteer their time, and even novice gardeners, because it's a great place to learn. So I'm all about creating that community of garden enthusiasts.
I love that.
It's so contagious.
Yes, you've got me ready. And two things I really want to highlight that you said related to inspiring you to go into business that I know it sounds so simple, but it's so important is first and foremost having a passion, because starting a business isn't easy. So sometimes it's your passion that's going to sustain you, and identifying that need, really thinking about what the community needs, identifying that market that has that need, and then having that passion to follow through. I think that's such great advice and inspiration for somebody out there wanting to start their own business. No, one thing, you spoke a little bit about it, but COVID-19, it's obviously affected everybody and everything. So it sounds like you've moved from classes to an individual sessions, but can you talk a little bit more about how COVID-19 has impacted your business?
Well, in so many ways, we would gather in groups, not big groups. I would have 15 or 18 people in a class, and we would be outside a good part of it. So actually, I was still teaching gardening up to about mid to late March, and then I had to give it up because of the COVID. But then all my former students and their friends and whoever they told about me would call me and said, just come help me in my garden. So we could mask up and keep our distance and still I would design garden and really teach one-on-one for these people. And honestly, I enjoyed bringing people along with me as far as the learning part of it, because if you create a garden for somebody and just say, okay, here it is, and have somebody else plant it, and they don't understand how that plant's going to grow or how to take care of it or when it needs watering and everything, and weeding around it, mulching around it, all the care it needs, over time, that's not going to continue to be a beautiful garden, and they will not be good references or happy gardeners. And so even though I've been designing gardens, if I run into people that want a garden, I'm like, I got to make sure that they're totally in the game. Right. You know, that this is something they want to do, or I don't want to do it. You know,
right. So, it's a holistic process.
Yeah. But once they understand it and they see some success, I mean, success breeds success. If you plant your tomato plant and it grows and you get fabulous tomatoes all summer, guess what? You're going to do it again.
Yes.
And you probably would plant some peppers right next to it, right?
Right.
And so that's how it is. And so if for me to feel like I'm a success and have achieved my goal of creating happy gardeners, then they have to be in on that process.
Right.
You know, and be inspired as well.
And I just think what a gift to give, one reason, we're looking at gardening businesses is because statistics show that one thing people did during this pandemic is get out into their gardens, because I think to your earlier point, it breeds some optimism to see life, and you're helping to create it in your own space. So what a cool job to be able to inspire people to do that.
Totally cool. And how much joy, in this year of darkness that we had, where there was so much hate in the world, honestly. And, you could go with your garden and be with nature and everything seemed to be okay.
Yes.
The birds are chirping, you could control your own environment pretty much. And it's just a great place to be, and so.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And it's crazy busy. Every landscaper in town is booked up for the next 6 weeks, pretty much.
I can imagine.
All the wholesale nurseries are running out of plants, because they're all shipping them to the garden centers because they can't keep the garden centers filled fast enough. So yeah, it's already a big thing.
Yes. I know. I bought my seeds in the first week of February because I was afraid they would be gone.
Right. Well, you were smart because a lot of them are gone.
Yes. So thinking about somebody who might be interested in starting their own business or has just started out, do you have any advice for somebody in that situation?
Well, I think you have to be inspired. There has to be something that drives you, I think, in order to be really successful and stay in it and be willing to put up with whatever it takes, because it was hard when I started out to just let people know who I was and that I was doing this, And so even 9 years ago, the website was absolutely essential.
Yeah.
And now technology more than ever is essential because we're not gathering the same way we were.
Yeah.
So there has to be a need. You have to have a passion for delivering on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's think about our novice gardeners or people that are kind of just getting out into the yard again, or maybe for the first time. What is your, couple pieces of advice for somebody looking to get out into the yard this spring and summer, or maybe even add, if they don't have a garden, maybe adding a new house plant to their collection? What do you have to say to them?
Well, a lot of people are very intimidated by our red clay. All right. So let me tell you, the red clay is loaded with minerals and good nutrients. The biggest thing that it lacks is organic matter, meaning compost. Okay. And so if you want to grow something successfully, pretty much you can go and get a bag or two of compost, or it might say composted cow manure on the bag. Okay. It's still it's going to look like beautiful, black, loose, fluffy soil. Okay. if you mix that in with equal amount of our red clay, you can grow anything.
Okay.
You can grow anything. So compost is your number one friend when it comes to gardening in North Carolina. So you need a nice long-handled shovel to dig into that tight red clay. And you need to fluff it all up with that compost and put your plants in. And I mean, once you have a success, you're going to be on it. I'm telling you, it's addictive, totally. So that's number one. And our last freeze date of the spring is about April 15th, depending on what part of the triad you're on. Mm-hmm. And so don't plant your tomatoes and peppers, all of the summer vegetables, or your zinnias, your summer flowers and all that, annuals. Don't plant them until April 15th. Because so a frost is only 37 degrees. So it doesn't have to go down to 32. Your plants could be totally unhappy at 37 degrees and could die at 37. Yeah. Because tomatoes really don't want to be below 60 degrees.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
They want to be. I mean, a lot of people wait and plant May 1st, and you don't skip a beat. I mean, if the soil's not warm, your summer plants are going to just sit there anyway. They're not going to grow. Right. So don't be in a rush I know there's already tomato plants in the garden centers. Right. Just leave them there right now. Be patient. You wait unless you got them at home and under a nice, bright, warm grow light. Forget about it. Just wait. And then if you're buying plants and you want them to come back year after year, like perennial flowers and shrubs, we are a climate zone 7A. Okay. So what that means is the plant tag should say, you can say anything up to 7A. If it's 7B, may not come back. So if it's a zone 8, it's an annual. It's going to die in the winter. Right. So if it's a 4, a 5, a 6, you're all good, Right. Up to a 7A, because we're 7A. That's how cold, that's a determination of how much cold your plant can take. Okay. All right. That's awesome. So, and do read the plant tags, because reading's important. Shrubs, you need to look at that and how big things get, because people think that little shrub is going to stay just under their windowsill outside and not cover the window. But you better look if it's going to be an 8-foot shrub. If it says it's going to be an 8-foot shrub, it's probably going to be 10 or 12 foot. Oh, right. Just say it, because they don't stop growing. That's about how big it's going to be in 3 or 4 years. Okay. I think there's so much more. People just need to take a class. Just come see me. I'm going to start having classes maybe at the end of April. I'm kind of waiting till we all get vaccinated a little bit. But regardless, we're going to be outside in the garden, so we'll be safe, So that's a great lead up to this. So where can we find out about you, your business? Where should we go? My website is everything. So it's www.learn2togarden.net. And if you'll go to my blog, that's where I'm going to, as soon as I have a schedule for classes, that's where it's going to be. Okay. So, so sign up, follow my blog. You can subscribe to my blog. And I don't write very often now. I mean, because I was too busy really, but I will, that'll be the first place I post it. Okay. Is on my blog. I do have a Facebook page too, that you can look it up, Learn to Garden. But, and so it'll be in both places probably. But my blog has a lot of information to get you started. That's fabulous. Ellen, thank you so much. You've got me so excited to get out to the garden. Well, thank you, Morgan. It's been such a pleasure. Yes. And maybe you can come join me. I'll be teaching classes on Saturdays. So great. Okay. If you're working, I'm there for you. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Ellen. You bet. Thank you, Morgan.